Okay, so I reviewed the gameplay, now it's time for the story. So right now, I'm thinking there are several types of viewers. First are the ones who regularly watch my videos. Thank you very much. Second and third, people who have played this game and people who have not. Heck, maybe you're someone who has played the original, but maybe you haven't played the remake yet, or this is your first time into the Final Fantasy VII universe. Either way, I will be spoiling this story rotten. I mean, if you don't want this story spoiled, go finish that game. By the way, I will be sticking to only the story of this game in particular. I mean, okay, for those of you that don't know, Final Fantasy VII is being remade in pieces instead of one huge game. This game, being episode 1, is the first 10 hours stretched out to about a 30 to 50 hour game. The reason why Square Enix took so long to getting around to remaking this game was because the game would take forever to do without cutting any corners. However, they decided to do it because, and I quote, hitting that age. They decided to remake the game in episodic format because, like I just said, this game would probably take more than 10 years or so for the staff to remake. So yeah, I'll try not to spoil the later event in the original game, though I might need to just a little bit for the story's less understanding parts, because parts of the story may not make much sense to people who have not played the original game. And for those of you that have played the original game, there are actually a few surprises here. So let's jump right in and talk about the story. This episode of Final Fantasy VII Remake takes place during the first 10 hours of the original game, which is in Midgar. Midgar is a big city on the planet Gaia, ruled by the Shinra Corporation, who is led by President Shinra and is the empire of Final Fantasy VII. All of us may have seen 2, 3, or 4-story buildings, but ever seen an entire 2-story city? The top part is the city itself, while the part beneath it are the slums. Okay, so the game opens up with a remade intro of the original. You start playing shortly after the train pulls up close to a Mako reactor, in which Mako is a natural resource for the planet. Cloud, who is the main character, is at this moment working with an eco-terrorist group called Avalanche, who is led by Barrett to blow up the reactor. Barrett is doing this because he really hates how Shinra is sucking the life out of the planet. Not only that, but he also had a bad experience with Shinra sometime in his past, but that's a story for another time. Working under Barrett are Biggs, Wedge, and Jesse, which, by the way, Biggs and Wedge are named after characters from Star Wars. Yeah, someone at Square Enix is a Star Wars fan. Cloud is here because as of this moment, he's a mercenary who only wants money. Avalanche goes to the Mako reactor to blow up said reactor. The group then manages to escape, and boy, was that explosion huge. I had a friend point out that it may have done more harm than good because of people who may have been caught in it. As Cloud, you walk through the streets of Midgar, seeing how everyone reacted to the explosion, and people were scared to say the least. Cloud meets with the others on a train after Shinra's police force failed to catch him. They then go to the slums below to wind down at the bar 7th Heaven, which is run by the bartender Tifa, who has known Cloud since they were both kids. She also hates Shinra, but the reason why is also a story for another time. It was nightfall and both of them sleep in apartments instead of 7th Heaven's basement that you would get to via the pinball machine like in the original game. The next day, Tifa helps Cloud find people to help as mercenary work, which include merc quests. More on those later. Then after Cloud has a drink that Tifa makes for him after saying the classic "give me something hard" and a few game of darts, Cloud, Biggs, Wedge, and Jesse go off on a mission for a tool to help blow up the next reactor. This is an added chapter not in the original game, and I really like this because Jesse gets character development and it's time spent with her, Biggs, and Wedge. Man, speaking of Jessie, I liked her when I played the demo, as I thought it was kind of cute that she has a crush on Cloud and is flirting with him. She even kisses him and hugs him tight. I mean, Biggs, Wedge, and Jessie, I did not care about these three characters at all in the original game as well. They are just there and you really do not get to know them very well, but this remake makes me care about them and I love that. But that also means, oh no, that part is going to suck now. You ride a motorcycle in this mission. In fact, you ride a bike twice in this game for mandatory reasons, and I love that they added boss fights to them. Soldier First Class Roche, who is a new character, has Sylvando's personality from Dragon Quest XI. He is a boss fight in the motorcycle minigame and later in the chapter, but other than that, I really do not have anything else to say about him. As for what role he's going to have later down the road, only time will tell. The party gets back to the slums, then Cloud, Barrett, and Tifa make their way over to the next reactor, only to get caught by the Shinra Company. By the way, the Shinra Company also made the bomb at the other reactor explode crazy big to try and paint Avalanche as the villains of the story. So yeah, Shinra will do whatever it takes to ruin the reputation of Avalanche, even if it means helping them. After fighting the Airbuster and seeing as how they are on the upper part of Midgar, Cloud then falls all the way back down to the slums and lands in the flower bed of Aerith's church. Cloud and Aerith spend quite a bit of time and do stuff together, such as Cloud being her bodyguard against the Turks, tending flowers at Aerith's house, helping people out. And one thing I love is they made the arm right here in the original game something that you can control to solve a few puzzles. I found that to be really cool. But then they see Tifa go to the wall market, which, oh boy, is a red light district. Give me just a moment. I'm gonna go find my awkward sunglasses. I'll be right back. Cloud and Aerith tried to rescue Tifa, only the crime boss, Don Corneo, only likes women, meaning Cloud cannot go into his mansion. I mean, Aerith can go in, but...
Seriously, Les, she's not half bad. With a little work, I bet she'd clean up real nice.
You're a pretty enough gal. Just not quite Corneo's cup of tea.
And I have friends in real life who say she's beautiful. So after a hand massage, battles in a battle arena, a mini game where you do squats, playing Final Fantasy VII, dancing all night, Cloud never struck me as the kind of guy who would dance. And I love how Cloud gives Aerith that seriously look here. Remember, Cloud, you're doing this for Tifa. But then again, he never struck me as the kind of guy who would cross-dress. Oh yes, to rescue Tifa, he had to dress up like a woman in the honeybee brothel. Though I did not see Cloud taking a bath with a bunch of dudes this time. After Cloud and Aerith get all dolled up, they go to the mansion of Don Corneo. They get drugged, which, by the way, doesn't stuff like that happen in the adult entertainment industry? Anyway, Cloud, Aerith, and Tifa wait in this BDSM dungeon until they get called out for Don to pick his next wife. Yeah, Don Corneo is a sex addict who marries a different girl each night. What happens to the other ladies? Psh, beats me. Unless he feeds them to his pet? Eesh, now I'm getting Jabba the Hutt vibes. In my playthrough, Don did pick Cloud. Does he pick Cloud every time in this game now? Also, how do Aerith and Tifa feel about losing a beauty contest to a man? Though, you gotta admit, Cloud looked the part.
Back off.
Also, Dawn, I thought you liked women. You didn't question Cloud's manly voice? And oh boy, you do not want to mess with Tifa and Aerith because... to think they were about to be raped. Dawn finds out Cloud's a man, and fascinating reaction for a straight guy. Cloud, Aerith, and Tifa interrogate Don Corneo because he had an interest in Avalanche, and if he doesn't speak,
I'll cut him off.
I'll rip them off. Or I'll smash them.
the group finds out that Shinra is going to crush the section of the slums in which Avalanche resides by breaking off the support of a piece of the top layer of Midgar and letting it fall down to that area of the slums. Our trio goes through the sewers, through the train graveyard, and then Shinra succeeds in crushing the sector Avalanche resides in. The trio meets up with Barrett during this time, and they barely escape after a piece of the plate falls down. In the original game, this was just a passing glimpse to me, but in the remake, Biggs, Wedge, and Jesse die from this part in the original game. But since now the remake makes you care about them, I dreaded this part because now it feels like there's something to lose. I even got a little teary-eyed when it looked like Jesse was going to die. Though this time around, Biggs and Wedge do survive. I don't know about Jesse though. Cloud, Barrett, and Tifa deal with the aftermath of this incident, but then they need to go rescue Aerith as she was captured during the plate crushing by Shinra. Shinra kidnapped Aerith because she is of an ancient race called the Cetra, and Shinra was looking to use her to get to a land filled with Mako in order to build Neo Midgar. Avalanche rescues Aerith. The president dies because Sephiroth, Final Fantasy VII's main antagonist, kills him, and the president's son, Rufus, takes over. The group does escape from Shinra headquarters, and this is where episode 1 ends. Psych! You fight Sephiroth as the final boss, which, let's pause and back up a bit. Brand new to the remake are these supernatural hooded Dementor figures called the Whispers. With this being a remake of the original PS1 game, you'd figured they retell this story pretty much the same way, right? True, and basically the Whispers are here to make sure the story of the original game gets told the same way. For example, Wedge dies when the plate falls in the original game. However, he does survive, and at the end, the Whispers try to kill him again, not to deviate from the original story. Sephiroth kills President Shinra and Rufus, which happens in the original game, so no change there. However, Barrett does die, but because he never died in the original game, the Whispers brought him back to life. Now, about Sephiroth. He's introduced very early this time around, and basically, he's here to defy the will of the Whispers. This game does not tell you why, but with the remake being episodic, the whole story as of the time of this upload has not been retold yet. So, yeah, for veterans of the series, there are a few surprises here, but if you are new to the series, I would highly recommend you play the original game. That way you can get the whole story in the meantime, because it'll probably be 10 years before Square Enix is done remaking this game. Also, there are parts of this story that would not make much sense for those of you who have not played the original game. Like, why does Cloud spaz out occasionally? What caused Tifa and Barrett to hate Shinra? Who is this guy, and why does he have the Buster Sword? What is Sephiroth's motive? Why does it seem like sometimes Cloud hallucinates Sephiroth and then other times the group sees him? Who are these hooded guys with numbers tattooed on them? The answers to those questions get revealed later on in the story, but to answer a few of them, Cloud spazzes out because his brain is messed up and Sephiroth has a link to him. Why? Story for another time. Who's the black-haired dude? His name is Zack and is Cloud's predecessor. He has his own game, which I also reviewed, called Crisis Core. The hooded guys with numbers tattooed on them are Sephiroth clones and appears as Sephiroth sometimes. As a fan of the original, I loved getting a fresh new experience of the story, but a few concerns going forward. I really hope Nomura does not make the story as complicated as Kingdom Hearts. I checked out on the story of that series because to me it was overly complicated just because. And for goodness sake, Nomura, please do not name the later installments Final Fantasy VII 0.7 Fragmentary Tale or Final Fantasy VII 2.3 over 5 Death by Slumber. While some people may find the story of this game confusing, I enjoy the detailed world building, character development, and the overall plot. I look forward to what happens next, but I really hope the game's plot does not deviate too far from the original. Though, I am down to see a few what-if scenarios to the plot, seeing as how it's seemingly possible Sephiroth can time travel now, and he's now doing a new game plus on this story. Well, there's still so much more to talk about, so if you like this video, be sure to subscribe, ring that bell so you'll be notified when I upload part 3, where I talk about audio, presentation, final thoughts, etc. I'll see you guys next time.